go. I'd like to call the order the Phillipsburg City Council meeting for June 3rd, 2019. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any public comment? If not, Barbara Stevens and Pastor Blake Stanwood on the thrift store water bill. Got a seat here. And you can pull a chair up there if you want to.
Thank you. I'm going to bring you up to where Blake come in, because last year when we moved the old thrift shop to the new one, he wasn't here. And on July the 20th of 18, I called to have the water shut off at the old thrift shop. And I called the other two companies, and we assumed the water was shut off. Well, they went in there for something, and the pipe had broke, and the basement was flooded. We got, and then after that, I called into the city office, and this is the first time I was ever told this, but the main meter belongs to the church. We're coming off of the main meter, so it was up to us to shut that water off. If I'd have been told that a year ago, that water would have been shut off. But I did not hear it until I called them this time. We weren't our water bill was $990. We were not called to see why the water bill was so high. I wasn't called, Blake wasn't called, nobody's called to see why that water bill was so high. So now Blake can take you from there.
And so that morning that we got a phone call from two of our ladies who are running the thrift shop here in town on the main street, saying, hey, we have about 1.5 feet of standing water in the basement of the old thrift shop. Not a phone call you want every Monday morning, but we did exactly what we thought we should do. We called the city. We actually went down there with our waders on. We got the water stopped, turned off, and he said, now this was not turned off. It looks like it was supposed to be turned off, but it wasn't ever turned off, because nothing else in that building didn't have electricity running to it, it wasn't supposed to have water. And so after the fact, we ended up having to call somebody to come remove all the water. We took care of removing all of that, and we're in the process as a church of figuring out exactly what to do with that building and that land. So here within, hopefully, my time in Phillipsburg, that building won't be an issue anymore. But we felt like that water bill, having already paid it, we wanted to come see what the city felt about this situation and possibly getting reimbursed for the water bill that we had. Not getting an alert like I got when I started running my sprinklers a whole bunch. They usually call if it's twice as much as what you normally use, and this one would have been substantially more. So, are there any questions that we can help answer? Because I can show you guys the actual water bill that the church got. If we want to.
Told that we did call.
That happened before the bills came out, is what I was told.
The leak one or the long term?
The discovery of what I was told this afternoon was the discovery of the leak happened before the bills were sent out.
Right.
That's why you weren't notified, because we don't have automated meter reading.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we only read the meters once a month. So your prior reading, you had a normal bill of 1,800 usage, and then you all called us saying there was water in the basement, so our guys went over and shut that off for you, and then the next reading showed 145,000 gallons. So we're unaware, until they go there and read the meter, how much your usage is going on.
Okay, you just said your guys shut it off, and I was told we had to shut it off.
This
So
is for the
evidently-
leak, that they came and shut it off while the leak was happening.
Everybody knows the situation, there's one meter that runs off both, so if you shut the water off, you shut it off in both places.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Well, you have a main water valve, hopefully in the old parsonage, I hope there's a main shut-off valve that typically we don't do that. Okay? If your bill comes, which I think your board probably has somebody that pays the bills, they ought to have been aware that there's two places on one meter. I mean, that's the way it's been since the get-go. I mean, that's not something we set up, that's something that you guys requested. So for us to, we would not go shut the water off at one place. We would shut it off at the meter, which would in tune, and you can step in any time, would shut it off at both the church and the parsonage.
Correct.
I don't know where the main shut-off valve is in the parsonage, but we usually don't go inside a house and
It's
turn
not
those
the
off.
parsonage, it's the church.
The only thing the
Yes.
city should own is the main shut off before the meter. That's correct?
That's correct.
That's the only, anything on downstream side of the meter is the customer, so we don't.
Okay, I still don't understand why we wasn't notified of such a high bill.
Okay, so I don't know about that. So what was the timing of, when did you say you discovered the water? What date was it? So when do we do our meter reads?
15th.
Then they should have been okay, so that I was misinformed.
But
No,
with those, I mean, that, we don't know what day of the week, it could have been a Thursday. By the time they got it figured, it could have been Monday when the call come in, so that's not, that 5 days in there doesn't mean it was, we read them on Monday, and we didn't notify them until the following week, that wouldn't be accurate information. So July 20th would have been,
we didn't discover the high usage when we read it. They notified us when they found the water in the basement. And then we read the regular meter reading after that for the big bill. So they had a regular bill and then a big bill.
No, he just told me we read on the 15th.
we would have had 3 working days between the time that it was read, by the time that day was there. So that's the day to read, day for her to do books, and then a day for a reread. Before they would have notified us and said that they had a problem.
When was this, you said?
Well, if they notified us on the 20th.
This happened in March.
Oh, I thought she said July 20th.
July 20th was the initial request
Initial,
for
18th.
water shut.
Okay,
No,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that date then, I'm sorry.
July the 20th of
When was the water discovered?
in March.
Well, do you know the specific date?
I don't have the specific date on me, we just have the bill from that time period.
March of this year?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, that I
I'm sorry,
wasn't understanding.
misunderstood that date, so.
Okay.
So
Yes.
February's bill was normal, March's bill was high.
Right.
That's what we're saying.
But we
So sometime between February's reading and March's,
It's broken.
and their discovery of it, we dumped $990 worth of water in the basement.
Okay, that's where I wasn't understanding.
Don't you think though, when somebody writes out a bill for $1,990, they would wonder why? I mean, it makes no sense.
So I think the confusion here is, we read the bill in February. Sometime after that bill reading is when the leak happened, and then your folk discovered it in March, before we would have read the meter again. And at that point, the city went over and shut the water off. So what happened between those dates is nothing that we were aware of was happening. So when the bill came out was actually after you had alerted to us that it was leaking, and they went over and shut it off.
I can speak from experience. They're very good about calling people when you have a leak, because I leaked 7,000 gallons of water in my place, and I got a phone call from them saying, you know you have high water usage. I said, yes, I know, because I had a leak.
I understand that, but we did not get a call. Nobody got a call. The church didn't
you-
get a
but the-
call.
But you,
Blake,
but didn't you discover it before we actually did the meter read?
You discovered
why would
before
we
we
call
had a
you?
chance to figure out you had high usage. Does that make sense?
You found the water before.
It don't make sense to me when our water bill.
Blake, do you
usually runs-
understand?
I see what you're saying, absolutely.
Yeah, we won't know until we do the reads.
Right.
And you
So-
discovered it before we did the March read.
So we're saying that there was no way to tell that so many thousands of gallons of water came out into the basement until somebody actually would have come and read it. And I think what Barb and I are, the confusion here, because this happened before I got here, is when that thrift shop transitioned and the request was made to turn off all stuff to that building, that I guess it never was actually done that way. So even though water wasn't used in that building up until the point that the leak happened, which after this crazy winter, it's imaginable why pipes burst. So I guess that there's a time frame there that from when it's read and when we should have gotten phone call after it was read if it was that high, if we hadn't discovered it beforehand. Is that correct?
Right, I mean, as far as, I don't know what the specific question was. The question about when you notified us to shut it off, you understand that it's on 1 meter. We don't typically go in a house and shut off for your house if it's on 2 meters.
I understand that.
Okay,
Why wasn't I told that when I called in on July the 20th of 18? It was up to us to shut it off. If I'd have been told that,
I
I
remember
would've had
several
it.
conversations over the phone when you switched over to the new thrift store, trying to explain that, how it was on one bill, because we have one bill for each meter. So you've had one bill for the church for many years, and there wasn't an account to stop or turn off. It's all together. So I myself explained that to you at that time. But I don't know if that was understood, or if I explained it well. I apologize. But I remember having that conversation when you switched.
so
because if I'd have known that, I would have had it shut off. And
who is it? Do you have a janitor?
We do, yeah. But they no longer service that building.
Okay, but I mean, that would have been the person probably would have shut it off.
Right.
So, council, so do you want to take action on this?
I don't.
What have we ever done before? We ever had this type of deal? We have had other places where they've had leaks and received high bills. Since I have been here, I have not seen the council take action to reimburse them. Every situation is different. Some could be from freezing, which this one was from freezing, to just hot water heater going out, to any type of failure. But I have not seen one so far.
But even if it was shut off in the basement and the water service was still turned on to that valve,
Still could freeze.
it could still freeze it and broke anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking out loud.
But what's that valve that are frozen?
That valve would have frozen broke anyway. Maybe not. I mean,
I don't know what side it was on.
well, I'm sure it was on the interior side, most likely.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, past
Yeah.
the valve where
Right.
it comes in,
Right.
because that'd been probably the weakest part anyway, I would assume. Yeah.
I don't see how we can. If we do, then every time this happens, then we'll be doing the same thing. Unless, I can't see any fault of the city.
And you ran it by the insurance agent?
Yes, I spoke with the insurance agent to see if we could claim it through that, see if there was a payment of anything, and she said that there wasn't coverage, or she didn't see that we had liability unless they want to take legal action and try to go that direction.
Pete, where you at?
Well, I too don't see any fault. Counselor, what's the story here?
Well, you've got a 1 meter, and your legal responsibility is to that meter, no further.
That's a majority, so.
Right. So in the future, could I request something that has
Sure.
nothing to do with money? In the future, if there are businesses or are locations that have multiple sites that go off 1 meter, can that be explicitly written down somewhere in a transfer of services?
A lot of,
Or is that written down
I mean,
somewhere?
this-
What I can tell you is being done. So the last meeting, the council approved the purchase of what's called AMRs, these advanced meter readings.
Okay.
They take a reading every hour. Our computers will pick it up, and it'll notify us within a few hours saying there's an abnormal use here. So we can better service our customers and tell them, hey, you might have a problem here you should look at.
Okay. Fantastic.
So we're taking actions to try to improve that information that goes out to our customers.
It won't be in probably till October, but
So that's very good to know.
because to your question, if you got a meter sitting here and it runs to a building and they shut that meter off and have a contractor tie into that and go to another building, we're never gonna know.
True. Okay.
So,
But one large indication is you only get one bill for your property, because we have one bill for each meter. And if both places had a meter, you'd get 2 bills for that. So you would know that way also.
Well, explain to me why, if the council, or if the city guys wasn't supposed to shut it off, why did the city guy reach down there and shut it off? Because he did.
Shut the meter off.
Yes.
because your
the
water is leaking.
He did it at your request to try to help stop it from leaking any further. But he shut the parsonage off, or the
Church off as well.
And if I recall, and it's been a little while, but if I recall, it was on the inside of the shut off in the house, correct? So once he got down there and was able to shut the main shut off into the house, we was able to turn water
Turn
back
the
on
meter
the
back on.
parsonage. And it stopped the leak, is that correct?
Yeah. When he was able to get this inside in the interior of the old thrift shop, the old parsonage, when he did turn that off, the water did stop leaking in that building.
And I'll be honest with you, typically we never go inside the houses or buildings like that, so he was doing it as a courtesy. I
So,
mean, he
okay.
truly was.
Okay.
He was there just to try to help.
apologize, we can't do anything, so.
I have something else.
Okay.
What kind of permits do we have to tear that old parsonage down?
A simple demolition permit. You come in and it's a simple paper. I'll be happy to get you one. And you just basically tell me what you're wanting to do, and it's basically to make sure that you remove the structure properly and you don't collapse it into the basement and then put a little bit of dirt over the top of it. It's a very simple process. I believe those are $10. So I can get you one real quick if you'd like.
Okay.
And at last time I knew, the county used to charge half price,
But you gotta go talk to the commissioners.
but you gotta go talk to county commissioners
They'll have to do a walkthrough.
on a Monday, and they'll do a walkthrough, and they'll charge you half for taking it out to the county dump.
And is
If
it
you just
correct you
return
could
that to us,
have
we'll
a
get it taken care
plumber
of.
cap that pipe and cut it or something to where water isn't flowing to that house if you're gonna demo it?
They'll have to cap it off.
They'll have to cap it anyway.
So you
yeah.
could do that now to prevent other leaks too.
Plumber could cap that out.
Do you have any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys for your time. We
All
really
right,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Karina?
Hello. You guys should have received in your council packets a copy of the completed environmental assessment concerning the Quanz Reservoir project.
I'm going to clarify that, Karina. I sent it out all of you instead of having to print it out on your email earlier. You received it all, so you all have had a copy of it.
Okay. So what this is, you know, after we got the project funded, I had to do an environmental review, notifying state and local agencies of the project, seeing if anybody had any questions or concerns, and put it into this format. To summarize it on page 2, the conditions for approval, there's just 5 things that we found. Number one, when we did the asbestos inspection, there's black tar around the piping, so that just has to be removed a certain way. So your engineer knows that, and he's gonna put it in the bid specs so that the contractor that bids on it knows they have to handle that a certain way. And KDHE, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, they sent a technical guidance document. That's something new they're sending if there's any demolition involved, so the contractors are aware of the demolition requirements as far as landfills. So that's going to be included in the spec book. KDHE has to review the plans and specs for the entire project. Wildlife and Parks sent best management practice recommendations, so that was also forwarded to the engineer, and where applicable, he'll put it into the bid documents. And then 3 Indian tribes requested to be notified if any remains are found, or tribal artifacts, that kind of thing. I was made aware that we had the wrong highway on this. Instead of 283, it should be 183, so we're gonna fix that.
While
happens-
you're doing that, on item 3, specifications is misspelled.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
So what I'm gonna do, since there's 2 mistakes on that page, it's a signature page, but I'm gonna go ahead and scan and email that to you.
Okay.
Or actually, I'm gonna be back in Phillipsburg, today's Monday, Wednesday. I'll just sign it, I'll correct it, sign it, and drop it off, if that's okay. And then you can sign it and scan and email back to me. What happens next now is this, I've given you guys the original environmental review. And we have to send a notice to the paper now. It's called a combined notice of finding of no significant effect on the environment. So what that basically says is citizens in your community can come look at the original environmental review. It has to be open for a 15-day comment period. And they can come look at it. They can ask for copies of anything. I just ask that if they do, that you ask them to keep it in order, since it's in order now. And if they ask for copies, you can charge for copies if that's your policy. But what we do is we send this notice to the newspaper then, and then they have that 15-day comment period. And after that 15-day comment period is over, you guys can officially the next day request a release of funds. And so I'll make sure you get the paperwork to do that. And then we send that to the state, and it triggers a 15-day state comment period. And then once that's over, you get what's called a release of funds. And that's your happy paper that tells you you can let it out to bid after that. So the whole time Daniel's designing it, I've been doing this so that hopefully our timing will line up. When I'm done, he's going to be ready to let it out to bid. I don't know if he's given you an update on his.
He's quite a ways down with it, so
Oh, good.
we're
Okay.
online.
So I would ask for a motion to approve, unless you guys have any questions, the environmental review for this project. It's called the environmental assessment for project, cover page. For project 19-PF-017, the environmental assessment.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All-
Is that with the corrections?
With the corrections.
Right, with the 2 corrections.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. So I will, is the newspaper gentleman here that would be willing to?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we still get that in as a legal document then this week?
I'll have it to you right after the meeting.
Tonight, I'll have it in tomorrow's paper.
Okay, is that okay then to still go ahead? I just hand wrote the one change for Highway 183 instead of 283. So the date for the 15-day comment period, in case anybody comes in, would be June, it's going to be published June 5th, so they can come in anytime up until the 20th. So at the end of the workday on the 20th, I'll message you and say, did anybody have any questions, concerns, comments? I've never had anybody come in, but you never know. If you wouldn't mind handing that to that gentleman, then this would be illegal. It's all one document.
Is it ready to go as is?
Yes, do you see my one handwritten change on the second page?
Will that work, Counselor? A handwritten change on a document like this?
Well, it'll have to be ultimately approved by the council. They want to approve it with the changes.
That's what we just did.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, we just
Right.
did that.
Right.
Publish as is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I still can talk to you guys about a few other things, I met with you have a potential downtown commercial rehab project. I met with the owners of that business earlier last week. And I just wanted to, I gave you guys a little sheet of what we need and when we need it. The state accepts these applications one time a year, and you can apply for up to $250,000. The business has to match 25% of the total project cost. So the city's responsibility would be to apply for the block grant funds, the same thing we're doing now, have an account, checks, be responsible for the oversight. If you want the contracts to be with the general contractor, yourselves and them, they can be. You'll have an agreement with the business owner. So if this goes forward, I'll walk you guys through all the steps, but I just wanted to let you know. I will need some help with the narratives. I talked to Tim about this, what you've done to help yourselves in the downtown area. There's part of the narrative that deals with that. These aren't competitive, so I've already called the state to say, hey, is there money in this account still? And they said, yes, there still is. So it's a matter of turning in an application. First off, I'm making sure everything's eligible. And I guess I should have said it was for the brewery, so the potential brewery. What I have to do first is make sure it's an eligible project, and I'm just a little worried because there's already some work going on in there, and I don't know if that's gonna have any, and then some of the components of it, I just have to make sure are eligible first before we go forward. But
Is this a program where they pay 25%?
Right, you guys can't, but the business owner has to pay 25%.
Right, that's what I
Yes, so we try to figure out what's eligible first. And then the architect will prepare a cost estimate and preliminary report. I put the application together. We have to have a hearing like we did on the last one, send in the application, and then within 45 days they'll let us know if it's funded or not.
Okay.
So easier said than done. It takes a lot longer, but and then I have to do an environmental review of that one too, but it won't be as thorough as this one. It should just be an easier, what's called categorically excluded review. But first we have to make sure it's eligible and we can go forward. Now what it's not going to do is hurt, you get one application a year, a city can. This doesn't count as that one application. So you guys would still be able to apply for something this fall, and Tim and I briefly talked about a potential project for this fall. The good news is the 2015 census numbers came out and they're taking over effective April 1st. And you guys are 52.80% low to moderate income. So you're automatically over 51%. So as long as your project benefits the entire city limits, you would be eligible. Now, if there's people hooked up to city water outside of the city limits, we might have to, we will have to look at that. But it should be the same survey. We can look at that last one and see who those were and see if we can use that. And if not, those ones might have to be resurveyed. I can't remember how many there were outside of the city limits. Do you?
I'd have to look at
Okay.
that number.
But, so what, I know you guys have a potential phase 2 of a street and water lines project, so we just have to figure out how we can separate those. Block grant has to be single in nature, so it's either the streets or the water lines. So if we can separate some costs out of there for an application, you guys should be eligible to apply for $600,000 as long as it benefits the entire community. So on that one, I'll just be needing a
And
preliminary.
so how long can we go on these till 2020?
You have 2 years to carry out your project, and you can keep applying every year for something else as long as you don't
But
have
the
something.
2015 where we're at.
Oh, for the census numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should be good until the 2020 census comes out. So if 15
Okay.
came out right now, 20 probably won't come out till 2023, somewhere around there. So it should be good for at least, there's never any guarantees. I didn't guarantee the last time. I said as long as the state doesn't change anything. Hopefully it would be good for the next 5 years.
That'd be great.
I still wouldn't toss those surveys. You'll need them for our Quanz Reservoir project, and who knows, maybe if we ever had a project that had a target area beneficiary, we might be able to use them. No guarantees there, but it never hurts to ask.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much for your
Is
time.
that it?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
That's great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good trip.
Thank you.
Lisa Kirchhoff, Library Board, 2020.
Okay, so we're talking about our budget tonight. So I'm sending down a budget for everyone and then our summer library activities summary for you to review. There's only one copy of that one, so we can all share. But as you guys are getting your paperwork tonight, I just wanted to kind of highlight what's going on at the library, so we all kind of know. So tomorrow is the kickoff of our summer library children's reading program. So far we have over 100 children signed up from our community, and we have over 60 businesses sponsoring the summer program. And we are starting with the Sternberg Museum presenting about Star Wars, and then Smoky Hills Public Television just presenting about space in general. So if you have children, they're more than welcome to come. We'd love to see you guys there as well. So it looks like pre-K through first grade is 4 to 5 tomorrow, second through fourth is from 1 to 2, and fifth through high school is from 2:30 to 3:30. So you're always welcome. We'd love to have you.
Do you keep track of, like the 100 kids, how many are within the city limits and outside?
You know, I don't, Kelly, do we do that? It's definitely
Just
something
curious.
we could start doing. That would
It
be
just,
interesting.
I know we play a big part of the county. I just
Yeah.
want to know, like, I always like
To
let
know
people know the
who-
county
Yeah.
benefits
They-
from Phillipsburg doing good
I
and
think
having
it-
things
does
like
AGRA
this in
have
the
a summer
county.
program?
Yeah.
So AGRA is the only other library.
Well,
Or
Agra, Logan.
everybody's doing a program.
Yeah.
But just from observation, we have a lot of outside children that come
Okay.
in. So we're gonna give you some time to review this budget since we just handed it to you, but to kind of break it out for you so it's easier to review quickly. We have years 2018, our budgeted is the first column, our actual expenses are the second, with our estimates for 2019 as the third column, and our proposed for 2020 as the fourth. So to briefly highlight the kind of the number jumps so that you can look at those more thoroughly. Our mill levy, we have a proposed of $69,000 in 2020. This may be a little optimistic, but that mill levy amount that we propose in the budget is that's all we can get. So if we would be due technically, and this might be more to your explanation, not mine, but we ran into problems in the past where maybe we could have gotten more mill levy money, but we had capped ourselves by what was printed in the budget. So that's just to allot for that. That sales tax number, we have increased tremendously, and that's reflecting the adjustment to 12%. So that helped our budget to balance in a lot of ways. The other numbers that appear to make kind of a big jump are salaries and benefits. We're trying to stick with our 3% increase to try to get our employees to a good wage point. And then at the far bottom for expenditures, building maintenance is the second from the bottom. And we have an estimate of about $1,400 for 2020. Although that is our estimate, that might be on the low end, and this is where we're really concerned moving forward with the library. We've covered all of our building expenses in the past, so we put in a new roof in 2005. The 15-year warranty on that roof is up next year. So if we get a big hailstorm and if we have a flat roof, that may be a significant cost that we're looking to repair. And then we're also anticipating our air conditioning to go out soon. So that'll also be a big budgeted item. So currently we're showing a balanced budget for 2020. You'll see that in 2019 we had a deficit of $5,700. So it's optimistic that our increases have helped, but it's a continued struggle of we're a library, we can't really make a whole lot of money. We need all the help we can get. So I'd be more than happy to entertain any questions you may have, and if I don't have the answer, we have some more help in the back.
So your current year estimate for 2019 should go up.
In regards to our total uncovered expenses?
Yes, it should cover it with the 12%, right?
When is that?
When does it go into effect? For 20 or now?
It will go in when we receive our next
The next one.
Oh, okay.
payment.
Oh, well, we didn't realize that, so that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that should help.
So
That
we're
should
gonna
take
look
care of the
better.
deficit,
Yeah,
unless something else comes up.
who knows?
But here's what you do with that money, just save it so you can buy yourself an air conditioner.
We'll be working on
You
that.
surely could get some, I mean, because we do, as a city, we get help from other institutions
Foundations, yeah.
on
Grant
pool and You know, like the air conditioning, a lot of them, they're not gonna help pay for operating costs, but
No, but for some of our big expenditures,
yeah.
it's just having that grant written ahead of time or just coming
I
up with the
understand.
funds in a short period of time. But that is, it's always an option and,
Well, it's like,
funding.
it's like your air conditioners and some of that. You should be writing grants for them now on a maintenance replacement. How many is there?
And that's.
3 or 4 in there.
Units.
But we need to install another one, because the air doesn't get into the hope room. There's duct work, but there's not enough air pressure that it doesn't actually.
But what I'm saying, Kelly, is you should be writing grants right now and put a program. If you got 4 of them, say, okay, we're gonna replace 1 a year for sure. And pick the worst one, write the grant, and if you need some other done, you put that in the first grant, get it written. Sure, it's still working, but why wait till it quits?
Yeah.
Get the grant written and project your worst one and get it done, and then next year do the same thing, or next year do the same thing. Put it on a revolving program and get it done, instead of trying to sit there and say, well, it went out, we gotta replace all of them.
Are you finding those grants available?
I've never applied for security for an air
You need to.
But yeah. that's
You need
very
to.
true.
And that's, we did that out to the Boyd Foundation.
Okay.
And that's what we did there. We put it on a program, instead of trying to replace everything at one time,
Right.
we looked at the worst one, and we went to try to find grant money and replaced it, and then every year thereafter, then you do that. Now, the other side of the thing that helps on something like that is they all don't break down at the same time.
Right.
I mean, they're spread out, I mean, realistically. They don't break down at the same time, or assumably.
Yeah.
But if you spread them out, then you can equalize that cost a little different, instead of trying to figure out where you're gonna come up with all the money at one time. Planning,
That's a
strictly
good
planning.
suggestion. We're kind of starting from scratch. We didn't have a lot of input from previous library boards or directors, so your recommendations and suggestions are very
So
helpful.
I'm guessing your estimate for 19 should be about $6,600 or more. You should have had a third of it already.
When was the check? Or,
So I'm saying January, February, March, and April.
Okay.
We've already probably collected sales tax on it.
I have to look at Karen.
yeah, no, that's
So we
awesome.
get May and June,
Okay,
the rest of it. So I would guess it would be close to $6,600
perfect, okay.
if you're making an estimate.
Yeah, that's helpful as we work forward.
That ought to cover the 5,700 at least.
Yeah, we should be in good shape. So we're just asking for an approval of the budget?
I don't know if you have to approve it or if we just.
Yeah, and that was another thing we were uncertain about.
No, I think you just present it.
Just present it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You have a board to approve it, so.
All right. If you do change, would you be able to let us know from what is presented here to what is published in the final budget?
Because I think there was a change last year that was just written down. Do you remember that when we met? That Brenda had changed the published amount and the amount that they were limiting us to last year.
Mm.
Which I think is probably out of the ordinary. Like it normally would.
I'll try to maintain
Yeah.
communication.
If something,
with you.
yeah,
Yeah,
if
we
something's
will let you
different,
know
just
if we
let us
change
know. It just
whatever's
helps
here.
us keep our record keeping in track. So,
We'll plan on using this number.
Okay.
okay,
Great.
yeah, and if something changes, just heads up. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, let's take a look at the May 28th minutes. Get them approved or make changes. They're on page 10, aren't they?
Did I forget to put numbers on them?
9 and 10,
Start on
yeah.
page 9. Numbers are back in. Oh, man, we're way back there. We're on page 8.
Tiffany, on the who is present, Alyssa's first name should be Alissa.
Okay.
Did we get Jeff call back with the 330? Did we get that for sure? That 330 number on natural gas?
Yeah.
He
did
called,
send
he was
it.
supposed to verify.
He did send the contract, actually. to
Okay,
sign.
so we're good.
Yeah.
We're good there.
I
Okay.
signed it the other day.
Okay.
I sent it back to him today and he signed it. So.
Okay, good. I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, appropriations ordinance number 1055-05-19 be in your packet.
What did we use Log Me In for?
I believe that is for Kent's, my PC is for him to log in with his phone so that he can monitor the plant and make changes to plant remotely.
We have a question into them because they substantially increased the amount, so.
That's part of the reason when I was looking at that.
The city
Oh,
clerk
it's like
and
$10.
Kent has
Huh?
it.
That was like $10.
Yeah,
I used
because,
that years ago.
well, I use Radman and I think it's a one-time fee of $50 and that's it, you know.
It was 200 and some last year. And I didn't catch it quick enough when I was renewing it. I talked to a representative and they said it was going to be lower, and then when I put it through, it was higher.
So that's
So I need to
annual.
fight with them, yeah. And it's 2 accounts, Kent and myself, but if
Well,
it's
that's good.
going to be that amount, it's,
Yeah, we need to not do that. So, did they ever got back with you?
yeah, I'm sorry I haven't followed through with
Okay.
that yet. It's been other things priority.
Okay.
I will get it done.
What else you got?
The other one I had was Survey Monkey. I know that we use that for some of the evaluations, but I guess I'd never paid attention to what it cost before.
300 and some?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
EDAB
384.
used it as well a couple times, so as far as, it's pretty handy.
I didn't know that we were using it elsewhere. That was,
Yeah, EDAB used it on the housing survey as well as the business survey that was sent out to all the businesses.
okay, well, it's used a lot more than what
Yeah, it's just not
I was understanding.
360 feedback, so.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
And if you guys know of any surveys you want to put out, it's handy too. Especially on businesses, we have a lot of emails. Or Angie has a lot of emails. Anything else?
I think that's all I had.
I move we approve appropriation ordinance 105605-19B.
1055-05?
Was we leaving that Log Me In or was we going to check that?
I think
It was charged on the credit card.
it was already
Right.
charged. I caught it on the credit card, and she has a phone call into him, but we haven't got a response back.
I'll
So
try to get it.
we are going to fight it.
I'll second that then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. James.
I guess a couple questions, probably more for Tim than anything. Did we have anything on the disaster? You know, the state's been designated disaster, and I know FEMA's will be out here tomorrow. Did we have anything to put into that?
We were very fortunate this time.
Well, see,
we
I didn't
had-
think I heard of anything.
We
but-
had a little bit of water come up next to one of the wells, but no damage. So we were all very happily, we have nothing to repair.
Quans didn't have anything.
Had water up to the first step, that's as far as it went. So
Good.
That's good.
that's close enough.
I guess the other thing, got comical to a point, but the pothole at the stoplight in front of Dibble's place, I guess that was getting pretty bad. Max went out and fixed it himself. He said he called the office twice, 2 different weeks.
I don't believe that's correct, but we have patched it numerous times. Unfortunately, with the wet conditions, it's not going to stay. A patch is a temporary fix.
Well, he just went out and got some millings and.
He went
put it
over the
in.
weekend after business hours and did request to get some millings out there and took care of it. It wasn't that we ignored his request or anything else. It just, that's a location that gets a lot of traffic, and everything we put in there kept coming right back out. So we do have a milling machine in town that we have rented.
Good.
It is on the list that has been published that it will be patched with hot mix in the next week and a half. So that should be taken care of.
I guess with that said too, then, a question for you and Tiffany then, after hearing the conversation here this evening. Do we log our complaints?
We log phone calls. I don't know if it's specific to a complaint.
Well,
There's messages left for each individual that's called, or if a message is requested to be left. If they call and don't leave a message, there may not be record of the phone call itself.
well, I guess what I'm saying is, it's just like in this case here, when they call in to have the water shut off, do we log that in that somebody called and had the water shut off? And we can go back and look and say that on this date, somebody called and asked to have that water shut off.
Well, usually there's a work order done.
No,
But
I'm
that-
saying above and beyond, because I used to with all my dispatchers, if somebody called in with a complaint, we wrote it down and put it in their file, in that customer's file, so if we had to go back, then we could say, oh yeah, they called and it was this and this and this. But I didn't know whether we logged that down. It's just like with the pothole deal. Well, I don't know if they called twice on the pothole, but if we log a complaint in, we can go back in the book and say, oh yeah, there was one called in and I left so-and-so a note. I'm just talking out loud to be able to track some of these.
That log, I just, frankly speaking, would be quite extensive. Because we receive a lot of complaints every day. Whether
Yeah,
it be
but-
for grass or potholes.
I can understand that, but how do we handle them legitimately when we have somebody walk in the door like this and say, well, I was never called back, I called in, nobody did anything, or, you know, some such thing? How do we know that? How do we know that?
I think until you have a document management system that you can tie from an imaging perspective back to a consumer. Otherwise, I think you could do it then, but it wouldn't be as big as headache as pulling a file and
Right.
sticking, having a file on every
Well, and I'm
customer.
just-
My question now.
We don't have a customer file on
Right.
everybody, do we?
Well,
No,
I'm not saying necessarily a customer file, but a lot
But
of
having a
times-
complaint file,
Yeah, a complaint file that you could go back to. I'm just looking at
On
this
this
and
new
then,
software, like our software, if we get a complaint or, you know, they can log a comment on that account. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
I would, yeah,
Right, should be able to do it with the new software.
should be able to do it with new software,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, and then you can just, if they come in, well, you can just go back to their account, well, on such and such a date, they come in and da-da-da, and
so with
We
the,
also have that as part
what
of
the
the
new software
website.
should,
The customer can go in
They can do a
and lodge
work-
a complaint there as well.
Is that a work order or a complaint? It's a work order.
Right, they basically go in there and say there's a pothole at First and State, and it automatically generates and it'll send it out, and it has a date, everybody that's looked at it, and the comments we put in there as well. So there is that option out there. This specific one, I mean, I had talked to Max a couple different times. It wasn't that we were ignoring the problem. We was trying to get the right material in here, and the millings just weren't holding.
imagine that,
We wasn't expecting, what, 12 inches of rain over the last
monsoon
month.
season. Yeah.
It's unusual we see that.
Do you want to make a motion on anything as far as changing processes until the new system, or do you want to?
You know, the way we're implementing the new system and it's coming on, I don't know that we would have to. I think it's something we need to be more diligent about. Until then,
And some of the records we keep in the office are, like with the water usages, when we call in, tell customers
Right.
they're over, we have a log for that and what they respond with, whether we left a message or they said the toilet was ready. And then we do work orders if there's streets problems or alleys or yard, or they miss their trash. All of those complaints go through the work order system. Then we have message books that every time we have a message for Tim or anything, they try to write down who it is and their phone number and what the complaint is. Then we have the paper formal complaints that the customers can come in
Right.
and sign those. So there's several ways we try to keep track of complaints. Sometimes they slip through or but we try
But if
those
we put
ways.
notes on the customer's account with this new software coming in,
Mhm.
that's going to be a better shot all the way through.
Yeah.
That would-
It's a good point, Mike, because we have that in our office. We have a certain system we go out on and we record our phone calls. I mean, we write our comments, so you can go out to that policy and view everything. And it's wonderful to back you up if something does
Well, it's
go
just like
wrong.
this deal here. Well, I don't remember, or you know, maybe somebody called, but who did they call, or, you know, and I guess in the notes, at this point in time, with the notes into the new system, that can be put in that Tiffany went ahead and called so-and-so back and informed them that we couldn't do that. Well, I'm just using that as an example, but.
Yeah, that'll be with the new system, a
With
lot
the new
better way
system.
to look for things that happen instead of thumbing through papers. Exactly.
Right.
So we'll try to keep that in mind when we implement it, to
And-
put that right into their account on
Yeah,
on the code.
I think it'd be good. I mean, I seen two instances here just this evening that would have been beneficial to have had. And probably the only other thing I know we brought this up many times, but the alley back there, behind the cafe and Tim's and the
I think we may
plumbers.
have some things that can help fix that. We're gonna try some stuff to this milling machine that may be able to level some of that out.
Good.
So there's not a guarantee it's gonna be a fix, but
Yeah,
we're gonna try.
that's cool.
So I walk the stands quite a bit with Brothers. As you come in that driveway, there's brick in it'd be the southeast corner of the driveway. I mean, it dips down quite a bit. Can we prop that brick up with some sand and get rid of
We can try.
I mean, it's not a big area. It's only like 2 foot by 2 foot.
We can try to free up some guys.
See
to get that
see if
done.
we can pop that like we did out.
By F Street,
Yeah.
we can try that.
See if we can prop it up a little bit so that there isn't such
The guys are.
because
loaded
water
down.
just sits in there.
The guys are loaded down pretty
I
heavy
know.
right now, so
I
we'll
know.
try to free them up some time to go for it.
Yeah. If we get something done by the end of summer, that'd be great.
I think we can handle that.
That's all I had, Lance.
All right. Mr. McConnell,
I don't have anything tonight.
Mr. Mott.
Just a question for Tim, and did you get any numbers on the cemetery?
I have not yet.
And that's fine. That's fine. I just was curious.
I contacted APAC with to try to get me some quotes on rock, but I haven't heard back from them yet.
And that's fine. I just was curious.
If I can, Lance, let
Yep.
me back up. I had one more question. It was brought to my attention, and I didn't know, but on our new AMI meters, and you might know this, does the water quality or soft water affect the reading of that due to the, whether it's minerals or the ion cation exchange of your waters or anything like that?
The nice thing about the meters that we have, there's no moving parts in them, so there's nothing.
No, but doesn't that meter read the ions in the water? Isn't that the way those work?
I guess
I figured they just had transducers in there that it played catch back and forth and like.
Ask that
meters.
question for me,
Okay.
if you would, please, because I know different qualities in water, which I've known for over the years, but different qualities of waters have different ions, the way they interact, and if that's the way it's reading it, and ask also, is there a way to prove those meters to say that they're right or wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There is, that's good.
We can take those meters, and we have done this in the past when we have a person who calls in and wants it verified. We can send that in and have it checked calibration and make sure that it's
So it's
right.
working right.
And if I remember right, Kyle told me they can do it all the way down to half of a shot glass.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
it's pretty specific.
Okay.
As far as water quality issues, I mean, our water quality in our system is fairly consistent.
I know, but does
So
it,
as far as the softening and stuff like that, I mean, that's, for most homes, that's done after the meter. So the stuff in our system, unless we have a huge shift in our system,
just something to ask
should be
Al?
very consistent.
Yeah, just something to ask Al if you would,
Okay.
please.
We can do that.
All right, thank you. That's all I have. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Lance.
Brett? Okay. Mr. Rogers?
Nothing.
Mr. Wisner?
Haven't talked about the Next Tech payments in a while. I was just curious if we're still getting those on time.
We should have that on our calendar of when our.
Yeah, I've been marking that we've been getting them
Okay.
each time, but
In the past, they've lagged quite a bit. So
like
Yeah.
months or,
No, they have actually in the contract, 60 days.
I don't remember what we went with in the end, but it was a lot
Yeah.
shorter time than it used to be.
Yeah.
they've been keeping up each month. I haven't recorded like exactly what day each month we get them.
Yeah, it's a quarterly payment, right?
Yep,
Yep.
should be.
Okay, yeah, I've been tracking all those franchise.
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Yep.
I would like to know, yeah, we probably need to take a look at that and make sure
It's
It's coming out
it's
where
it
we
needs to be.
where we thought it was.
I can double
That'd be
check.
the other question on that.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the fogger a couple of times. There was one I think you talked about we could possibly rent or then maybe look within a couple other communities on.
I've asked a
splitting
couple
one.
other communities. Their stuff is extremely outdated. And right now, Smith Center, Stockton, and Plainville, their councils are only willing to allow us to rent that equipment. It seems like these organizations are getting tighter with their stuff where they're not sharing resources near as much as we used to. So I would assume it's based on liability. So I have reached out a couple more. I have not heard back from yet.
Okay.
I've reached out to Hill City and Norton to see whether they have those operations and whether or not. I've even offered that we would pay their staff to come over and operate it if that's what we needed to.
Something about
To see if that would be something. The base, what most of them are telling me is they don't want their community looked as a contractor. So they're paying their staff to come over to Phillipsburg and operate that. They feel like they would be taking the job from somebody else. Which I can understand that, but you also gotta look at what benefits the community as a whole more reasonable. Whether you're gonna pay 10 grand or whether you pay $500-600. So I'll see what I can come up with that information on here. And I'm still researching what it costs for licensing, so I'll have that for you here shortly.
And we were gonna do like four guys or?
Mhm.
Okay. Hey. Look at that.
I just wanted to pass, Angie said, just thank you so much for Riverless, for you guys setting everything up. They couldn't do it without you, and she appreciated that very much.
Scott.
Nothing on legal matters to report, although I did get a call today from Olaf Bovee, and one of our previous council members recently passed away, Joyce Robb. And her funeral will be this Thursday at Olaf and Bovee at 10:30 a.m. I didn't know if the council wanted to take any action or what in regards to the funeral, so share that information.
Okay. We typically send flowers. Okay. Mayor Munyon has nothing tonight. I did receive a compliment on the benches at the cemetery. Said that was awesome work. But, they want to know if you hired out. So we might pass that along to, who did that, Dustin?
Russ did.
Russ did.
I thought the cemetery looked very nice.
Yeah. Okay. Tim, you're up.
All right. Last week, phase 1 bid of the highway project. Those bids came in, for the base bid was $992,604. The add alternate to kick it down the road just a little bit further was $1,245,000, which goes over and beyond what we had budgeted. After reviewing it extensively, it would be my recommendation to you that you allow us to award the base bid of $992,000. That will put us with the full match of $1 million from the state, because that also includes all of your original design fees, your construction administration fees, and things like that. So that cost altogether will be $1 million and sorry, folks.
Is that the $1,072,264?
Yes, that is just the construction engineering, because we paid for design out of pocket. That design cost was $90,000. So that $90,000 counts as our portion we agreed to match. So total cost on that would be $1,162,264. So which means out of what we agreed to pay, we have a remaining $73,000 left for the construction and construction administration side of the project. So That is within the restraints you guys had set forth in your application. If you're so willing, I'd like to have a motion for the mayor to sign off on the
So
authority.
where's that money come from, the 73,000?
That comes out of our street budget.
Okay. And we've already planned for that in our capital improvement plan?
Should.
Okay, just as long as we got it in there. A motion's been asked for.
I so moved to have the mayor sign.
Who's that with?
Smoky Hill.
Smoky Hill?
Smoky Hill out of Salina, and they do good work. I believe they did the intersection down here for you.
Ooh, I don't remember.
They do good work for
I
us.
know I didn't remember.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
What's projected starting?
It's actually projected to have a start date of June 24th, so we're kind of having to push this stuff
Oh,
quickly.
shit.
Yeah.
So we're hoping we can get through the contracts through KDOT, so this will need to be sent off tonight, and they have first thing in the morning, so we'd like to see that stuff happen very quickly. KDOT is concerned about running through the winter, so they're pushing as hard as they can to get this thing done before any snow flies, so it's good. The access road for the airport bids tomorrow. It's at 3 o'clock here at the city office. Upcoming training, June 12th, I will be sending 5 to Russell for transportation training. It's a mandatory, every other year they go. Unfortunately, with as many new as we have, we're trying to play catch up. She's about 4 months past due, but we haven't been able to find a class that doesn't cancel. I'm getting her there. So we got one class June 12th and one is July 10th. That'll get everybody up to speed for the year. So we'll split those so that we still can function our transportation system while the rest of them are in training. Both of them are in Russell, so we'll get everybody in there and get them out.
When is it?
June 12th and July 10th. So, and there'll be no disruption in any of the services while we do this. Crews last week did a bunch of mowing. They painted downtown for Rivers Festival. They got all the crosswalks and parking areas painted. Our seating projects are all but complete. There's about 100 yards left of one project that still got to be cleaned back up and redone, but it will be done this week. The entire town has been swept. The entire town should have been completed spring as of this afternoon. So we can pull those resources back off and get them on patching, which is where I'd like them to go next. Code enforcement, as many of you know, we sent out several letters last week. Final count, once we got, some of them got mowed while we were writing letters, so we were down to 34 letters that were sent out. We also were called to one vicious dog at large on yesterday. There'll also be a violation for the animal ordinance that'll go out because they have more than the allowable animals on premises. There'll be 2 health nuisances issued for the same location, and also a junk vehicle notification that will be sent out as well to that location. The health nuisance and the junk vehicle have been on a formal complaint by a neighbor, so we'll have that stuff sent out. Milling phase 1 and patching. There is a list in your packet that indicates the first phase of where we'll be going. I would also be putting this on our social media sites tomorrow morning with a description of what those patches are going to look like and why we do this. This is just the first phase of it, so if your street is not on there and it has a hole, doesn't mean we're ignoring you. These are the worst ones that we're trying to get started with. I'm sure this list will grow as we move on. There's also a secondary sheet in there. It's got concrete approaches. These are in order of how we will be tearing them out and replacing them. When we replace these, they're going to be done at half at a time so that we maintain traffic through that intersection. Hopefully they go well and go quickly.
And you're gonna post these out on our site, I hope.
Correct. They will both lists will be out to everybody in public. Okay. Next thing I got for you is an agreement with BG Consultants. This is for the preliminary engineering report. We are required to do one of these for the C-CLIP Phase 2 submission. This is a project that you'll be utilizing your CBG funds, and this is one of their requirements. This cost is for them to survey the area, make sure that it does not have any environmental impacts, similar to what we did down at Quan's Reservoir. That agreement is for $6,500. And with your approval on that, I'd like to have the mayor sign that agreement.
This is for,
Phase 2 of the Highland
so
State
it's
Street
going, this is going from just past 8th Street to,
project. We're hoping to 5th Street. And the way this will be designed with CBG money, we will split some of the utility cost off as CBG, so it should make our pavement go further down the road. Because the water line cost is fairly extensive.
So
you can
this
use
will,
it for water, not the concrete. Right.
Yes,
so this 6,500 will come out of streets as well?
this will come out of water.
Just come out of water, okay, I'm sorry. I so moved to have the mayor sign.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Matt.
That'll have all new water lines.
Yes, this continues on the water line project to replace the 8-inch and all the valves that are
Underneath.
extremely poor shape underneath the road now. They're being moved out. The original discussion was we was going to bore the line from 7th Street to 5th Street. In talking with the school, they're allowing us to remove those trees and remove the rock on the stadium there, and that way we can open cut it, and it saves about 70 grand, so it makes a big difference.
So we're not planning on going back with grass right away on that, right, until after the project?
After the project, we'll grow grass, yes.
North side of the stadium will be grass.
Yes.
Yes. And we can replant some trees back there as well. I mean, we can dress it back up. What was your question, Mr. Miles?
I just made a motion to have the mayor sign it.
I'll second it.
Mike seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
The next agreement I have for you is with BG Consultants for a preliminary engineering agreement. This is a requirement for the AMR meters. Part of the requirements for the state funding is you have one of these done. This is for $1,000. There isn't much environmental to do on changing these meters out, but it is a prerequisite to the application. So with your acceptance of that, I'd like to have authorization for the mayor to sign it.
It'll come out of here and be put on the loan?
Huh?
Come out of water.
We've included it in the projections that we
Okay,
had last
that's
month.
what I meant, yeah. I'd so moved to have the mayor sign it.
Second.
With that second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And I apologize, I didn't get this agreement put in there, but before we have anybody sign it, I'm going to ask Mr. Sage to review it further. This is an agreement with Census. It's your AMR agreement to get them started. There is a lot of legal information in there for Mr. Sage to review, so I will pass this on to him. And we will have it for your next meeting for you to sign. There'll be 2 correspondents going out with the city minutes tomorrow. One will go out tomorrow and one will go out another day after. One will be the milling and patching information, and the day after will be the concrete approach. Now that we have those areas identified specifically, I want to make sure we publicize those as much as possible. And last thing I got is we have a planning commission meeting June 12th. And that is all I have for you. Unless you have questions for me.
If we can get some dates out there to forewarn the people in the area that you're going to be in the area, that'd be nice.
In the area for
Approaches and millings and stuff, just to let you know where you're going to be working.
And one thing I might put out there, I know you and I discussed this a little bit, we put a bunch of stuff in the packets, but we're not always real clear to our customers where that information might be at. Make sure everybody understands they can go on their website under the agendas, and down in the, I believe it's the bottom right corner where it says download. If you download that packet all this information that I have and that the council has is readily available to you.
And I think Rachel put it out tonight,
Okay.
so she put it actually out in the comments. Yeah, there's
Okay.
a link to it, so.
But yes, we'll make sure, in most of these areas, we'll try to do door-to-door flyers to make sure that people know where we're at.
Good. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Tiffany?
I have got a brochure for Administrative Assistance Conference. It's going to be held in Hayes, August 2nd. And both of my staff were interested in that, going to that if we could get your permission. They're going to talk about getting organized, dealing with difficult people, about technology and getting along with your boss and negotiation and leadership, all kinds of stuff they're going to talk about at it. And it's $199 per person. If you get permission for them to go to that.
Is it one day?
Just one day.
Isn't that during rodeo,
Oh, I don't know.
August 2nd?
August 2nd.
I don't care as long as you think you can man the fort with one person.
And I need to ask for my summer help. I should still maybe
Okay,
have
that's
them
fine.
too, so that'd be good.
Just
And
want to make sure.
I don't know when we're.
Just make sure there's 2 people in the office for that day. Make sure they're here.
Okay. And then I wanted to present, we've been discussing about records retention policy. The city of Topeka has out there on their website an excellent detailed policy about all kinds of records within all of their departments. So we've pulled that and I've been going through it, kind of seeing what applies to ours. Some of the departments we don't have here since we're smaller. And I also brought that idea up to Mapes and Miller, and Becky said that probably if it's good for Topeka, it's probably pretty good for us to use also. So I didn't know if it's okay with you if I utilize that policy, or how I should move forward with that as we are going through documents to see what we can keep and not keep.
So when you're saying records retention, instead of having 500 boxes downstairs stacked from the beginning of time to.
Some of the summer help can start shredding.
I don't have a problem with it.
So what I need is a motion to adopt the Topeka Records Management Retention Policy. And in the case that we don't have a category that they have, then we'll just ignore it.
Do we want to do that without?
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a
Yeah.
look at it.
I don't have a yeah, but
I think it's a good
just
idea.
show us
but I'd
what
s-
it involves us and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see it first.
It's very detailed. It's if anything, there's going to be probably a few dozen categories we don't have.
Yeah, that's.
Just because they have a lot more stuff than us.
Yeah.
So I'll continue to go through it. I'll have Tim go through his areas too, and we'll try to, because it's hundreds of pages, so we'll kind of consolidate it. And then I'll present it to council. hopefully soon.
Okay.
And then we need to, send a link out to them.
Okay. And then also in your packet from Mapes and Miller is just the agreement to move forward with the budget. I think we already approved the contract and the amount for the budget and the audit.
We did.
But they sent this to us and wanted us to sign it. The motion for the mayor. Can we do this one?
I think this was last year that he said this was a new thing they started requesting, or that they were it was mandatory now.
I think so too, Lance. I so move, have the mayor sign.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is that it, Tiffany?
We got everything marked on the calendar, so we stay in our timeline for the budget. Tiffany?
I'm not sure. We need to, I guess, get some direction from them on where to start and,
No, the start is right here. With the committees and getting the capital improvement plan.
We,
laid
last
out.
year, I know we had that all mapped out.
Yeah, we need to get like
Target
90%
dates.
of our budget laid out here. You need to be presenting estimated revenue based on June, once we get June in. We don't know what our mills are. I mean, we know what our mills are, but we don't know what our sales tax dollars and stuff are gonna be yet. But once you get an estimate of that stuff, then we need to take a look as a finance committee and say, this is kind of the way things are hashing out the rest of the year. That'll feed next year's budget. But it's in his court now as far as getting the committees together and knowing what he wants to spend.
And I have gotten one document from the county clerk. I don't remember what all was on it. Estimates for next year.
Okay.
We'll get through this week and I'll start setting those things up.
I just wanna make sure we don't get behind the 8 ball on it.
Yeah, I would plan on about $240,000 worth of sales tax money.
Make that work.
I'll maybe be sending out emails and try to coordinate committees to meet. Start there.
Yeah, that would work.
Anything else? Any other questions? And you got your CD report in there to take a look at as far as making sure that you're paid appropriately. So with that in mind,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, I need to start.